Hello friends, Zevalar here, and welcome to the Warframe Arsenal Research. Now today is going to be the secondary of the weapon set 2. Previously, in the Warframe Research, I showed you the glass slugging shotgun, Pistol Prime. And today, I want to show you guys something a little older. You know, it's a bit older. It's also a shotgun, actually. But unlike Pistol Prime, it's a hand shotgun, and it's a secondary gun. This is an ancient weapon. In the grand timeline of Warframe, this is a very old weapon. Not the oldest one out there. But you can be dang sure it has been a long time since this weapon was really out in the limelight. And I wish to uncover this ancient myth, this mythical relic of a bygone era, and present it to you in a presentable form for the Warframe research. This weapon I am talking about is Euphona Prime, released back during Banshee Prime access. That was a long time ago. It's been a very long time since this weapon was available. It might have been available with the recent Prime Resurgence rotation, I don't actually know. But these days, Euphona Prime makes a periodic return to the market through the Prime Resurgence rotations. So that's where you can find Euphona Prime these days. It's either you get lucky with Prime Resurgence relics, or you just buy the set on the market. It's 3 parts. Anyways, Euphona Prime, Banshee Prime's signature shotgun, is an instrument of devastation that fires both focused and broad shots. And as you can see here, it does have 2 firing modes. You have the slug, which is the primary fire, and then the buckshot, which is the alternate fire. The slug is going to be the main damage dealer. The buckshot's just to apply some statuses. Maybe. And as you can see, unique trait, alternate fire shoots a widespread buckshot. It refers to this category of damage. So, what do the stats look like? As you can see, the slug, it focuses very heavily into crits, and the buckshot focuses very heavily into status. We're going to start with the buckshot and then go to the slug. So, the buckshot, inherent multi-shot of 10. That means it fires 10 bullets each time you click that button. For damage per projectile, the crit chance is 2%. So, don't even bother trying to crit with the buckshot, right? Maybe you can if you brought secondary enervate. That actually, I might try that out. But if you're just looking for raw damage, you'll see the better results out of the slug. However, the buckshot has a status chance of 9% per projectile. That is 4.5 times larger than the slug's status chance. And because the buckshot is 10 projectiles, that's a lot more overall status chance than the slug, dude. I'm just saying. Now, the total damage for buckshot, it says 880, but let's be honest, it's probably a little misleading. And by that I mean it's a multi-shot of 10, so the total damage of 880 is going to be split across those 10 bullets from the buckshot, for a total of 88 damage per bullet. I think you could, in theory, use the buckshot as your damage, but for the purposes of this showcase, we're going to use the slug as our damage source. Besides, the accuracy rating on the buckshot is pretty low, so you know. Now we have the slug. As you can see, there is no multi-shot stat displayed here. That means the multi-shot is just a basic one. Fires one shot up to 5 times per magazine. And as I said previously, the status chance is really low compared to the buckshot's overall status chance. However, this is where you deal the damage. Critical chance of 30%, critical multiplier of 2.5x. Very heavy impact weighting, or a total of 325 base damage. And as you can see here by the status weighting, this is a 90% weighting into impact damage. I don't exactly think that has much relevance, but I figured I might as well say it. Now, the build for Euphona Prime. I am going to be focusing on having the slug deal as much damage as I can feasibly muster, while trying to keep it relatively cheap for you guys, so that you might be able to replicate this nonsense. And if you guys do want to replicate this nonsense, here's what you do. That's it. Target cracker, prime target cracker, the only difference is crit damage. So I am not going to assume that you guys are lacking a prime target cracker. However, it is relatively expensive, so if you want a budget build for this, just roll base target cracker. Outside of that, well, here we go. So, first off, I have Jolt and Pistol Pestilence. You get electricity damage and toxin damage. Those will work together to make corrosive damage, which, if you apply the status effect with the buckshot, will remove enemy armor. Which means they take more damage. At least they take more damage if they're armored. Yeah. And then we got Frostbite for cold damage. And cold status effect slows enemies down and increases crit damage dealt to the enemy. As you can see, these are all dual status mods, as I'm trying to mark up the status chance on the buckshot. If it weren't for the buckshot, that wouldn't matter. If it weren't for the buckshot, I'd probably bring, like, I don't know, freaking maybe Kuva Quartak and just blast the enemy a few times for some status effects. Anyway, Galvanized Shot for more status chance, and on kill you deal increased direct damage per status type affecting the target. And this is going to matter very heavily for the slug damage. So, bring it if you can. Now, the rest of this is just dedicated to crits and dealing a stupid amount of headshot damage. So we have Galvanized Crosshairs. When you headshot, you increase your crit chance when aiming for 12 seconds. And when you score a headshot kill, that bonus gets increased. You have Prime Target Cracker for increased crit damage. You have Creeping Bullseye for increased crit chance. You have Pistol Acuity for increased weak point damage and weak point critical chance. But multi-shot cannot be modified. That means if I were to swap out Prime Turret Cracker for Galvanized Diffusion, you can see, multi-shot didn't change. It's still 1 and 10 respectively. And finally, for an Arcane, we have Secondary Deadhead. On Precision Headshot Kill. This means if you score a headshot kill while you are aiming. Okay? Okay? You gotta aim for this. You'll gain increased damage for 24 seconds, which stacks up to 3 times. You also, by default, get an increase to your headshot multiplier, and a reduction to your weapon recoil. The weapon recoil doesn't matter on this gun. You don't have much recoil to begin with, so. Anyways. That is my Euphona Prime build. We got Corrosive and Cold, and we're just focusing on using Buckshot to soften the enemy, and then you use the Slug to knock him out. That said, I would like to state, just right now, this is not an AoE gun. Alright, if you try and bring this into a survival mission, you won't meet the kills per second requirement. So don't bring this into a survival. Unless you're taking on the Acolyte, then go wild, but for the purposes of this research, we're bringing it into a disruption mission. Kappa, Sedna on the Steel Path. Without further ado, let's get started. So of course, you know, you're gonna go through the normal disruption process. You're gonna unlock the door, but we're gonna be using Euphona Prime as our only damage source, aside from possibly the Sentinel. But we don't talk about the Sentinel. The Sentinel's just there to, you know, apply some utility. So we're gonna wait for some enemies to pop up. You can see some enemies have spawned. And now, here's what you do. Aim for the head. Won't deal too much damage at first, but once you do score a kill, oh boy, that damage goes up. Here you can see, you know, easy 100k plus, easy. Every time you, ooh. 8.1 mil? Hold on. Oh, 8.5. Oh, I was trying to see if I could maybe break 10 mil. This is kind of fun. Hold on. Okay, 516. Sentinel. Ah, okay. There you can see 1.8 mil. Now, we have the Demolist. Now, what do you do with the Demolist? Simple. You buckshot him first, alright? You soften them up, and then you slug them. You know, you buckshot them, just soften them up, apply a few statuses, then you slug them. The slug is your damage dealer. The buckshot is just there to apply statuses. We can, that was a 10 mil. But anyway, sorry, I keep on getting distracted. As I'm saying, the buckshot is gonna be how you apply status, and the slug is how you deal damage and finish them off. And of course, you know, while the demo is approaching, you can shoot a few enemies, stack up your firepower a little bit. But again, with the Demolist, buckshot him once or twice, soften him up, and then you slug him. You buckshot him once or twice, and then you slug him. As you can see, easy 500,000 damage plus per slug. If you hit the head. If you hit the body, you still deal some decent damage. but for example, let me take the Scorpion. You know, body shot 35k, headshot 1.4 mil. It's a night and day difference. Alright, you gotta aim for the head with this weapon. Otherwise, you just won't see damage. And while I am showing the results of this research, I would like to just throw it out there. I would always appreciate it. If you enjoy this research like I do, feel free to like and sub to the page. It's free and you can unsub anytime. Now we got here a Violet. These guys are kind of tough. But you can see, you know, each slug I hit, that's a chunk of their health gone, dude. Like, god damn. I guess I lost bloom somewhere. Oh, 13 mil. Anyway. So we just need one more Demolist to get this mission done. So I'm just gonna keep on... Oh, well, there it is. There's the key. Alright, so let's get this demo out of the way and then we'll be up and out of here, yeah? So as you guys can see, and what I'm going to say about this, my verdict based on the research, I think this weapon is still very serviceable. As you can see, it is having no problem just chewing through Demolists. You can still use this gun very practically and it will work and do you proud. So if you are a Euphona Prime enjoyer, go wild. This is literally a one Forma build, and you can see it is blasting the balls off of these Demolists. So yeah. That said, I hope you guys enjoyed the research today. And as I said, I'm only doing this disruption. Euphona Prime's a single target gun, it won't work elsewhere. Anyways. I will see you guys around. Peace.